Okay, we're almost done, I think. I was talking about the idea that there is nothing more personal than your relationship to God and the universe. That you must have the freedom to choose, and you must allow other people to have the freedom to choose their own worldview. Now some people, well, let's see. Some people like to impose their will on others. The symptom of this I saw a while ago on a 60 Minutes show. Well, actually many years ago, I think now. But it was they were visiting a Christian school in Dallas, and they showed a class, and they showed a little girl finishing the Pledge of Allegiance with the phrase, "Liberty and justice for all who believe." And it's kind of a frightening thought that a Christian school, an American Christian school, would think that liberty and justice should be restricted only to those who believe their way. It's un-American and it's un-Christian. The Gospels don't say, the Gospels restrict the rules of Christianity to Christians alone. And the American way, the real meaning of America, that's the meaning of religious freedom, is not to impose your views on others, at least by the force of law. You can persuade them, you can ostracize people, you can shun them, you can refuse to deal with them, but you must never use force against those who believe differently than you. Okay, so what about the other candidates in this election? There's 4 candidates in this election, a Republican, a Democrat, and 2 independents. The 2 independents, Pat Martin is a member of the modern Whig Party, and he's a nice guy. He's smart, and he's very generous. But he reminds me of my first elections back in 1980. He's young, and I think a little bit naive about the Leviathan state. But he has to run. He can't run as a modern Whig party because the Oklahoma legislature doesn't like third parties on the ballot. I'm a libertarian, and I've been a libertarian since 1974. And the Libertarian Party is not allowed on the ballot in Oklahoma. So we're both running as independents. But theoretically, this election could be won by 26% of the vote. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Now, Tom Guild is the Democrat in the race. He's a nice guy, he's kind, he's smart, but he's an academic, and he's committed to the notion of being a social democrat. Heavy on the government assistance to anyone who is underprivileged in any way. And very harsh with the wrong kind of regulations on economic transactions. Liberals tend to want social freedom and economic controls. Conservatives want economic freedom and social controls. So he runs along the Democratic line. Now Mr. Langford, he's the Republican. He's an incumbent. He's a Christian, a good, hearty Christian. He's a family man. He's smart. But he's dedicated to the Republican Party's program of National Socialism, where we're constantly involved in military operations overseas. The banks keep getting bailed out. The Republican program, like the Democratic program in many ways, because both parties are entrenched with the powers that be. The elected officials come and go, but the bureaucracy stays there. They stay there for lifetimes. And they are the people who really rule this country. I've been studying these problems for just about 40 years, and I think I have a pretty good handle on a systematic way to dismantle the problems that we're facing. You know, the problems that we have aren't religion or the lack of religion. No matter what people tell you. Our problems are secular, and they're because of the fact that we're ruled by liars and robbers and murderers. You're being robbed every day through inflation by the Federal Reserve that's control of our currency. And it's a way, inflation is a way to ruin a middle class and working class with an invisible tax that not one in a million can understand how it happens. There are murderers in our government, the people who give the orders for these drone strikes in Pakistan. Out of over 2,500 people killed so far in Pakistan by drone strikes, only 41 have been verified as being associated with terrorism. 2,500 and to 41. I'd say that's a high enough ratio to make some people into war criminals. It's unconscionable that this kind of thing is being done in your name and my name. These people are using your faith to manipulate you. They're making you promises that they will never fulfill. And I urge you to discard the notion that these two parties, either of the two major parties, can help you. The only way to shock these people in Washington, the only way to shock the bureaucracy and get things straightened out is to elect someone like me, an independent. And it will scare the holy crap out of these people. I had a friend, I've worked at OU for the last 15 years, 17 years. I just retired from them a couple of years ago. And I was the lead technician for the door security computer system. And I had a friend named Dennis that helped me. He was a technician too. In fact, he was technically my boss. But we were riding around in the van one day in 2003. George Bush was getting ready to invade Iraq. And Dennis is a proud redneck, proud of being redneck, a good missionary Baptist. And he was talking about how good it was going to be that we were invading Iraq and we were going to get their oil. And I looked at him and I said, Dennis, you don't understand. The people who are influencing this are people who want to rule.